All right, guys. So please, I'm going to beg you, you're going to hit play, click on this video, and you've clicked on a lot of videos. I'm sure you have about Havana syndrome, targeted individuals, and so on, wondering what's going on. I found out about this thing. I've been searching video after video after video, and I'm lost. I don't know what's going on to me. I'm hearing the chat bot. I'm hearing the voices. I just got a divorce. My girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife just left me. I just got out of a mental ward. I just got another psych diagnosis. I had to call the ambulance on myself, and I was at the hospital again. You have all of these questions. So you have the who, what, when, where, and why of this system. And I'm somebody that has been attacked by this system, been hurt by this system, been helped by this system, been hurt by the protocol, been hurt and helped by it. And I'm here to tell you a little bit about it. So please do not click past this. I'm begging you. You're going to get good information. You're going to be able to find out things you didn't know previously. And I just want to help people with what is going on to me and my family and a lot of other people. So first off, my name is Nicholas Falcone. I have been overtly targeted and hurt physically by directed energy by this system in place since about 2015 to 2016 consistently. 2006 to 2007 was the first time I was hit with directed energy that I can trace back to. I had a sore scalp and didn't know why my head hurt and why I was profusely sweating, but that was, now that I look back, it was directed energy while I was at work at a job that I had back then. Previous to that, I was covertly recorded from about the late 80s, early 90s, all the way till now. And so have you. You've been covertly recorded as well if you're somebody that has these same signs and symptoms. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of things real quick that I want you to get. And one of these is this book here called Project Soul Catcher. It's by Robert Duncan. He was a whistleblower that interviewed other whistleblowers about this system. You can see, unfortunately, he passed away last year from a heart attack. In quotes, we'll say heart attack, but if you watch one of his last interviews, you can see that the technology and the energy was just kicking his ass. Unfortunately, he was unshaved and he was having muscle spasms and stuff. And this one's called How to Tame a Demon. This is the one I suggest you get first because this is a little breakdown. It's in regular terms that anybody can understand. And this book here, it's a little bit thicker, but this one is in scientific terms and stuff like that. If I flip through it, you're going to have a hard time reading it. Some people that don't have an understanding of science and mathematics and stuff, but this is the one to get right here first. Read this, gives you a little insight. Secondly, I want you to get an EMF detector right here. This is a TCL Alcatel A3 phone, has a magnetometer in it. It's a cheap phone. And I want you to get an application for it. You don't have to hook it up. You can get it on Wi-Fi. Just get the application through Play Store. Pay a couple of dollars. This one is called Ultimate EMF Detector. Right there, Ultimate EMF Detector. And that's what the icon looks like if you see that. And get the Pro version. Pay for the Pro version. So you don't have any type of ads or anything. So if you're getting hit with the energy, you can put this around the spot where the energy is, where it's hitting you, and make sure you're recording it with the phone, with another phone, and the computer will temporarily disengage the active insertion of directed energy into your anatomy where you're being hit. So it'll help you at least temporarily around your head. Usually it's around sex organs, your testicles, vagina, ovaries, penis. It'll help you temporarily stave off, the implementation of the carcinogenic energy or cancer-causing energy. All right, so with that in mind, hopefully now people believe me that I know what I'm talking about. But get these books, please, at least the How to Tame a Demon, and read those. Also, there's a guy named Dr. James G. Ordano. His last name is Giordano. James and look up his speech at West Point on YouTube. So look up West Point James Giordano, watch that speech. And it's all about the system. He worked for Defense Advanced Research Project Administration, or DARPA, and he has primary knowledge of the system, and somebody inside the inner workings is feeding him information, and he is releasing it to the general public. Because in that video to the West Point cadets, he tells them, be aware of this. You know, if you're having these signs and symptoms, please tell somebody. Plus, he says, these companies can now affect that have developed this system. The United States government, the companies, contract companies can now hit individual organ systems separate from one another. So they can attack your lungs separate from your liver, from your kidneys. The entirety of the human anatomy is targetable to an individual arm hair. So that's what you're up against. And you were randomly picked. Don't think, what did I do? What didn't I do? Did I do something wrong? Because if you're hearing the chatterbox or the chatterbot, it's going to try and manipulate your process of thinking and go, ooh, you did this, you didn't do that. Don't listen to that shit. You didn't do anything. What you did was you were born, you have a human brain, which is compatible to the system. It only works on human brains. It doesn't work on dog brains. It doesn't work on birds. It doesn't work on horses. It is only compatible with humans and human neural patterns. And I'm going to get into that in a second here with the who, what, when, where, and why. Now, some of this I really don't have an answer to. Some of it's only hypothesis or something I've come up with just from what I've been through, what I've had to endure, and what I read, and just put together a logical hypothesis. So yeah, I mean, I'm still targeted. A couple nights ago, if you look at my YouTube shorts, I got burnt like I did in phase 1. Over here's the radiation phases. We'll get to this then in a separate video where I will talk about the radiation phases. If you're in a walk to death protocol, I'll be elaborating on this here, how they implement the energy, what the phases to the implementation of the energy are, and what the prospective outcome is, depending upon what an anatomical area or what piece of you they are hitting, what the prospective outcome will be. But it's called walk to death, because you are literally going to work after phase 1 of your life targeting. You go back to work, you get a job, you get bills, you get, car payments, you have a car again. Well, all the while they're pulling the wool over your eyes because they gave you money, they gave you quasi happiness again. They're implementing your death phases over here. You're still getting hit with the energy. You're still getting infused with, it's a carcinogen, meaning like smoking cigarettes is a carcinogen. It's a carcinogen. It's going to cause cancer and mutate your cells. So I touched on that a little bit in my previous video. If you want to check that out, it's in my profile as well. I suggest watching that as well. So now with that, who, what, when, where, why. So who, there's a multitude of different answers for the who. So the who could be the United States government. We already know they have it. Obviously, we have whistleblowers right here that came out that actually created some of the technology that they're using that is integrated into the system. He actually created the, in the early days, when people needed to voice modulate, when they would call up and they would pretend, let's say you wanted to be an Indian guy. Hello, my friend. What are you doing over there? How many times must I tell you, my friend? Oh my God, what are you doing? Like something like that. Well, he created a program that could voice modulate where you could actually sound like an Indian. You could sound like an Asian person if you wanted to make phone calls for the CIA. I'm assuming that was in the 90s, in the early 90s at some point. So why he decided to do this and blow the whistle and get the other people that were blowing the whistle and interview them was because they started using pieces of his technology that he helped to create when he was a contractor with the CIA, with the government, with the Department of Defense. And they started using it to harm people like me, people like you. And in his interviews, he says that. He says, I would have never done this had they not taken my technology that I gave my blood and sweat to create, and they turned it in. I created it to help and save my fellow countrymen of the United States and women of the United States. They took it and turned it completely around and started using it to harm and kill them. So also, while he had a security clearance, he was doing what I did when I had a security clearance. One of my jobs, I had a security clearance, and what I did was I decided to look into things that I really didn't have any point looking into, because my specific job didn't dictate to me that I needed to know these things, but I was just digging around in things I had access to that were kind of cool. But he did the same thing. That's how he found out that the FBI calls it walking the target to death. So what it is again, you wake up, you get up, I got to go to work, got to pay the bills, got to pay the taxes. And this is after they desocialize and isolate you and have your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend get a divorce and break up from you. If you're the primary targeted person in the relationship, they run away from you and then you're by yourself. Once they're away and they're never coming back, whether good or bad, that's when they go, okay, now it's time to go back to work, time to go back to a normal life, because then they get you to do this. Focus, 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 focus. And you're focused on normal things that humans should focus on: paying your bills, paying your taxes, taking the kids to school, whatever it is. But all the while, the directed energy is still hitting you. Boom, 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 boom. And then they let you go another couple of hours. Maybe you'll get hit again. That's why you got to get an EMF detector. So when you feel your skin burning, your dermis is your epidermis is your top layer of skin. When you feel that flushing in your face, the heat, and you're like, the general unwell, or a big, what you're not going to feel is the electromagnetic, the electro microwave pulses. You'll feel them, but you won't be able to get them on the detector. What that is a concentrated quick blast where you feel whoosh, whoosh, and you feel a quick burn inside of you typically, or it's not usually on the skin or on the face. That's usually reserved for a quick blast of your feet, top and bottom, your joints, finger joints, elbows, knees, to deteriorate your joints and potentially give you connective tissue cancer. And interiorly to go to your gastrointestinal tract, your stomach, and your colorectal tract. But I'll get to that in a subsequent video. So, but what this will do, whatever phase you are in, whether you're in phase 1, phase 2, or phase 3, you'll be able to see that even 5 to 20 microteslas above background. So I always like to show background. Background is typically 40 to 50 microteslas. Now for me, typically I'll see somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 20 microteslas above background. And I'll know when that is because I'll feel skin flushing here in my face. I'll get a little kind of heat going on. And that's what it is. It's radiant energy. So that's what it does. It'll overheat you. The same type of energy overheats cancer. It's called microwave ablation. They kill cancer tumors with it by overheating them. So same thing. That's why you start profusely sweating. You feel flushed on your skin. They'll burn your epidermis and leave a scab like they did to me, because it's microwave ablation overheating cancer. And something kind of like this. It's kind of like cellular energy. And they just send it to your body. All right. So let's continue. So who is it? Well, we know that the United States government has access to this. We know that they're just going to say, we don't have it. We don't know what you're talking about, even though there's declassified documentation and paperwork that speaks to it. We know James Giordano knows about it, Dr. James Giordano. We know Robert Duncan knew about it, all the whistleblowers that he interviewed. And we know that if we have it, why wouldn't other countries have it? But, who knows? I don't have direct verification that the government has it, that the military has it, any of that stuff. I haven't seen it, but these guys have. That's why they wrote books about it. That's why everybody's writing books about it. And that's why everybody's blowing the whistle about it. So it's a multitude of different people, places, but it's kind of irrelevant who has it, because what's that going to do for you? The person who's being sleep deprived, the person who's being burnt, the person who's being fucking going out and being made drowsy to crash their car. What's that going to do for you? Who has it? Nothing. It's not going to do anything, So the general idea of who, kind of irrelevant. So we'll get rid of that. Doesn't matter who has it. What are you going to do? File a lawsuit? And then what? What's the lawsuit going to say? I'm being burnt with directed energy and I'm going to sue the government who claims they don't even know what we're talking about. And most people don't even recognize that regular men and women like me and you are even targets to begin with. It's only government workers, government employees, because that pushes the agenda of, oh, it's Russia. Russian gangsters have it, and then the United States says Russia is doing it. Russia says the United States is doing it. And what happens? Nothing. Me, you, and everybody else who's being hit with the directed energy ends up with cancer or a fucking heart attack or a stroke, and we die. And then somebody else gets put on. And meanwhile, nobody figures anything out. So who is irrelevant? What is it? Well, we know it's remote neural monitoring. They monitored the neural patterns of a bunch of people. They had test subjects in the beginning in the 1970s. This is what? 1977-ish. The United States and doctors and people start buzzing around this idea, which they had previously in the 1950s. There was a doctor that was messing around with chimpanzees and implanting neural implants and controlling the chimpanzees with an RF controller. But around 1977, in that area, the first patent for remote neural monitoring, remote neural monitoring, is filed. So what that is you're remotely, meaning not at the individual, you can have somebody walking around, maybe with a neural cap on at that point in time, monitor their neural patterns. On a computer, they'll be stored, so that way a computer can assimilate a profile of their neural patterns, and then we can put together the neural pattern encyclopedia. So that way everything around us can be reiterated through a computer. Smell, touch, taste, all of the senses can be reiterated. Sound. So it's called remote neural monitoring, and the first patent was in the 1970s. So then after that, in the 1990s, there was another patent that was filed, like a generic. And this has been worked on since then, legitimately, because once computers came on board that could run off satellites and you could send wireless energy and information, you could somehow put together, like the Human Genome Project, you could put together the Neural Pattern Project, where you could, all of this around us is just neural patterns. If you cut off the connection from the eyes to the brain, you're blind. So the brain, all of this is just neural patterns in the brain, colors, everything. It's just a reiteration of neural patterns in the brain as to why we see this, why we hear this, why we taste and smell this. Just like The Matrix, the movie, this is exactly what this system is. So there's another piece to this called V2K, which everybody knows about. V2K, voice to skull. And MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, was one of the main colleges that worked on V2K for the military. So that way you could telepathize. It's called synthetic telepathy. You could send voices and pictures and everything to people's heads. So in the future, you'll communicate. I don't have a neural implant. I hear the chatterbox or the chatterbot. Chatterbot. I hear the chatterbot. I first heard the chatterbot in 2015 or 2016. I woke up and was like, damn, what is that? Never said I was hearing voices. It was just like, what is that? It's so odd. Why is it not going with the TV? So I tapped my girlfriend on the shoulder at the time and was like, do you hear that? And she was like, I know. What are you talking about? What do you hear? Never had any psychosis, was never nuts, never had any mental health disorders, nothing. And obviously she didn't think I was nuts, but she was just like, I don't know, I'm not hearing anything. So I don't know what you're talking about. So the computer chose me to be the primary target of the mental health desocialization isolation protocol. And that's why I'm here by myself today and haven't had a girlfriend for 8 years almost. So the chatterbot is what it is. Voice to skull is what it is. And remote neural monitoring is the essence of what it is with synthetic telepathy. So synthetic telepathy is what it is as well. All of that put together comes up with a human simulation. They have simulated with supercomputers, AI, deep learning, neural networking, chatterbots, and all that stuff, usually to the subconscious level. Usually it's not to the conscious level, meaning you hear the chatterbot. That's the two differences with what. What it is a subconscious level simulation and manipulation of humans in general. So they have computers that are fast enough now that can send this crap to your head in real time and control you, control your emotions, thoughts, feelings, everything, and control the people around you. It's every single human. If it's me, you, somebody in Seattle, Washington, somebody in Maine, Caribou, Maine, somebody in Daytona, Florida, somebody in Los Angeles, California, it's everybody in between. Or else the system breaks down and becomes pointless. All right. So I'm not going to get into all of that right now. The chatterbot, the synthetic telepathy, remote neural I'm not going to get into how it works. That's later videos. But that's what it is. When I told you about 1977 and previously with MK Ultra, they were looking how to control minds. They were using LSD back then. So MK Ultra, if you look that up, I'm going to erase this real quick. We're going to move on to when, because I don't want this to be too long. I'm going to break all this down in later videos. All right. So when this was always a dream of the CIA, the DARPAs of the world, all of these like covert black ops and shit like that. If you look up MK Ultra, you'll see previous iterations of this, where in the 1960s when LSD was found, LSD, lysergic acid diethylamide, was discovered by Dr. Albert Hofmann as a treatment for migraines, and it's a very potent psychedelic. And the United States government feared that the Russians would get their hands on a whole bunch of LSD and spray it all over the country, and we would all be mind control ultra. We would all be mind controlled with this LSD. So what the United States did, which brings me to the point that they would of course experiment on us, anybody would, because who cares? There's 8 billion of us. We're not rare. That's why they would experiment on us. My brain isn't rare. Your brain isn't rare. There's 8 billion humans in the world. If we're not an endangered species. We are an endangered species because we're being directly energized and given terminal illnesses and shit. But in general, humans aren't rare and we're not an endangered species. So that's why they don't mind killing us. If we were an endangered species, then they would have reservations about ending any of our lives because we would be needed to give neural patterns to the system and help program the system and make it better. All right. So what they did was they would abduct people that they would dose with LSD without their permission. They would go into bars and they would dose people with this LSD. Then they would take them back to safe houses, and they would ask them questions and, record them and shit. It's weird. So that's just a brief of when, going back, this is in the 60s. So in the 50s, there was a guy named Dr. Delgado. He was working with chimpanzees and implanting RF chips into their head and then using a controller to control and ambulate their movement. So he was doing this type of thing with the chimpanzees. So it's been since the 1940s, the 30s, mind control. Everybody wants to control somebody else. So it's been for a long time. The when, a long time ago. Except for now, the technology has gotten to the point that they could do this. So you've been recorded, I've been recorded for decades. Decades and decades. Your neural patterns and your profile and your brain has been recorded. If you're lucky, you weren't manipulated during your recording and your life, that the computer didn't shoot shit in your head to control you to do things before it targeted you for probable extermination. So that's the when, a long time. They've always wanted to control minds and do weird shit. So that's that. Look up MK Ultra, LSD, all these experiments. I don't know why. I just feel like I don't want to die. I feel like I have so much to give to the world, because I'll say it again. Somebody, if you look at the comments on my other video, a guy said, that's really controversial that you say that the best days of your life were during your targeting. They were. My previous life that I had, I was in a pointless 6-year relationship off and on with somebody that I never wanted to be with. It was a computer generated relationship, taking care of somebody else's kids. Never wanted to do that. And my previous time before that, was just hanging with people that nothing came about in my life. My life was just pointless, pissing away money, working for nothing. And then when it came along and desocialized, isolated me in the beginning of my targeting, my overt targeting, and it got me by myself. After I survived phase 1 of my targeting, not the radiation phase, because that's still ongoing, but the phase 1 of the life phase, as I call it, the simulation life phase, targeting phase 1, and I got back to quasi-normal life, almost normal life, besides the radiation stuff and the chatterbot. I founded an outdoor club. I founded a coin club and a currency club. I ride bikes. I climb mountains. I make videos, outdoor videos when I'm not doing this. I make coin collecting videos. So people look at me for inspiration, positivity, and happiness. And I was never somebody who had a dot on the map of life, let alone the impact that I have on a daily basis to a whole bunch of people in reality. And I owe that all to this computer system that unfortunately is going to inconvenience and end my life ahead of schedule, after giving me the best part of my life and making it the shortest, because it's following through with a protocol of death and, inconvenience. It's mainly what this is a project of inconvenience, is a good point. So what this is inconvenience. Maybe I spelled that wrong. Inconvenience. Sorry. So the inconvenience is your untimely death. Death is always inconvenient. We only live once. What is also inconvenient? Everything it does to you on the lead up to death. The burning you, the radiation, the making you late for an appointment. Yeah. The ending your relationship with your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, the arguments, the emotional manipulation, the car accidents, the large expenses, all of this stuff is inconvenient. They can't just leave you alone and just give you the energy and give you the death. They can't just make you commit suicide. No. That is way too easy. We have to inconvenience them. We have to put them into financial debt while we're burning them and giving them problems. That's what they do. So we'll get into that later in another video. But it's inconvenience squared is what I call it. So it's inconvenience x2. Or inconvenience to the second power. However you want to say it, it's inconvenience times inconvenience. So suicide, it's not just cancer, it's not just heart attack, stroke, death by diabetes, any of that stuff. It's suicide as well. All right, so where? Everywhere, all over the globe. You got it in India, you got it in the United Kingdom, you got it in Russia, you got it in the United States. It's a global problem. So it's an entire network, an array of satellite dishes beaming this shit into people's heads 24 hours a day, because why not? So that's where. It's everywhere. It's where you are. It's where I am in Pennsylvania. It's where somebody is in New Mexico. It's where somebody is in Poland. It's everywhere. So you're not alone, unfortunately. Other people will die with you and me. So that's an easy one. Where? Everywhere. All right, so why? This is the big one. Hopefully I'm not done recording yet, because this is the big one and I saved it for last. All right, so why? Why not? So people want to go, why? Why me? Why did this happen? How could this happen? How did this happen? What did I do? What didn't I do? Okay, so I'll tell you why. You didn't do anything. Nothing. You have a brain enumeration, a brain number, right? You have a brain number in a computer system somewhere. We all have brain numbers. That's how it identifies us. Besides through facial recognition and all that stuff, when you're looking at somebody else, it already knows, because there's a back and forth connection like a cell phone. You're a walking cell phone. This has a cell phone number, but more importantly, in the back, it has an IMEI number. If you look in the back at the label in the back, you'll see IMEI number. That's the intrinsic identifier to the system. And that's how it identifies your cell phone. Your brain has an IMEI number. I'm not going to get into the specific science of how they get your brain print, but your brain print is on a computer, a very, very sophisticated artificial intelligence supercomputer. And it's random. So if you go to a thing called a randomizer, go to random.org. I think it is. I think it's random.org. That's a randomizer. And you put in 10 numbers, 1 through 10. You roll a dice, one or two die, whatever, roll it, and it comes up 12 or 8. We'll go 8. So it comes up 8. Hit that random button 8 times, and the top 4 are going to be targeted people. So whatever it is, let's say it's 3, 7, 1, 2. So those 4 are going to be targeted. The rest of them get to go about their lives. That's all that happened. You didn't do or not do anything. You were recorded for decades, more than likely decades. Recorded for decades prior to your targeting and your physical deterioration, your burnt eyes, your sore head, your scabs on your skin, your flushed red skin, your sweating, all that stuff. You were recorded for decades because they have a profile on everybody. So that way, when they start to target you, they can have your sister, brother, kids, aunt, uncle, dad, mom. Their voice profile can be beamed into your head for manipulation, and it goes on and on. I don't want to get off topic here, but that's how sophisticated this system is. It has everything you've ever done recorded. It has what you like, don't like. What time you like to wake up, what time you like to go to bed, what color you like, how you brush your teeth. All of these things are recorded. They know all of that. It's recorded your brain for all of these years. So why? Because they got nothing better to do. A bunch of whys. Because there's nothing better to do, and because they need, if you're going to kill somebody, you're going to be a serial killer. Don't you want to get good at it? So how do you get good at killing people if you don't kill people? It's just common sense. So you don't hold yourself accountable for what's going on. There is nothing in your life that you did or didn't do that got you targeted. Because if that was the case, then you could look out and you could say, how come those people in the prison aren't being put down? How come they're not being targeted? Why aren't they being burnt and given cancer and heart attacks and strokes? Because they did all that horrible stuff. At the same time, you could say, how come all those people in the church that are not doing anything wrong, that are being good and loving people and hugging people and doing positive things and handing out food and being charitable and are the opposite spectrum of evil? You have the good people. Why aren't they being all targeted simultaneously? They did so much good. See, bad and good doesn't mean that you're targeted because you were bad or good. It's just you have a human brain and it's compatible with the system. Your brain works with the system. That's all it is. And because they had nothing better to do. If they had something better to do you think they'd be killing you? There's no handlers on, there's no human watching you. If you were that important, why would they be killing you? They automated our situation a long time ago. Why would you pay attention to somebody you don't care about when you can automate it? Right. So your brain works with the system. It's like Apple and Android. And Android doesn't work with the Apple system, just like the Apple system doesn't work with the Android. So a horse doesn't work with this system because it's not a human brain. The human neural patterns in the human brain are compatible with the system and the system's operational functionality. So they programmed the AI computer system to run on human neural patterns as the primary functionality for the simulation system. So for the simulation, it runs on human neural patterns. Now, the human neural patterns have 0%, and I mean 0% to do with the physical deterioration and the directed energy. The directed energy has to do with nanoparticulate matter or some form of particulate matter assimilated through the entirety of your anatomy. So the simulation runs on human neural patterns. So nanoparticulate matter. I have to keep checking and make sure I'm still recording. Yeah, so nanoparticulate matter. If you watch James Giordano's speech at West Point Military Academy, he says they can now affect the cellular level with nanoparticulate matter. The cellular level of individual organ systems can be targeted with directed energy, with nanoparticulate matter being assimilated into humans, whether it's smart dust, which you insufflate. So they aerosolize these smart dust particles, these particles of, I don't know what they're made of, but they spray it into the air, like hairspray, and you go, and you inhale it, and it goes up into the tissues in the back of the nose, and then it goes into the brain, and it assimilates into the individual neurons of the brain. So nanoparticulate matter can be assimilated into the brain, and then through that, a computer program that knows individual human neural patterns can reiterate those neural patterns to control humans, literally physically control you. Open and close your hand. There's a part of my brain right now that is lighting up repetitively. I have neurons in the brain, neural patterns for doing this. Anything you do with the human body is here. So the simulation runs on the human neural patterns, but the physical problems that it runs off of directed energy, which is attached to nanoparticulate matter. They can vibrate one of your hairs on your arm. That's how they can hit my right foot from my left elbow, because your entire body is numbered with these individual nanoparticles and stuff like that. So they have a computer program that is programmed that knows in 3D every layer of you, and it's numbered. So that way they can hit your face separate from your foot. I mean, it's more sophisticated than that, but that's how it works. That's why you feel, ow, my foot, or, oh, my left eye. Or when you wake up, it's generally burnt eyes and your eyes are all red and bloodshot. And, you know, so that's how that works. The simulation runs on human neural patterns. That's the voices, that's the V2K, the telepathy, that's the movement of the hands, that's blacking you out like this, and doing all that kind of shit runs on the brain. What doesn't run on the brain is the physical attacks, the radiation. That all runs on a 3D rendering of a human anatomy with individually numbered particulate matter. And that's how individual pieces of your body can get hit separately. In the future, they're going to use that to microwave ablate cancer wirelessly. So you'll be able to have a physical iteration of your entire anatomy show up on a computer system, because those individual particulate pieces will reiterate and reassimilate on a computer screen somewhere. And then they'll see, oh, wow, there's a tumor here, or, you know, whatever. And then they'll go, well, what particulate matter numbers are encompassed in that tumor? And then they'll go, okay, overheat that shit with our microwave energy, and they'll ablate that tumor wirelessly. But today it's, you know, all kinds of shit. But the simulation runs on human neural patterns. The physical deterioration runs on directed energy, or DUs, and individually numbered particulate matter assimilated throughout your body in a 3D rendering in a computer system. So that way individual pieces of you can be targeted separately. Because how else would they be able to do that? How would the computer system know how to hit a hand from your testicles? So why? Because that's just what they do. It sucks because humans aren't rare, you know, and because your brain is compatible with the system. Any human brain is compatible with the system. Sucks. I'll never stop saying it sucks. The guy I used to be, who wasn't a bad person, I just had no purpose in life. The guy I am today deserves all the chances in the world to live a good life, to raise my kid, you know, and that's just not something that they're into. So again, when you say why is the most important thing, why me? Why is this happening? Why won't it stop? Because they've determined that you're pointless. You have 0 point. 0. That's your simulation score. They decided when they started to end your life with directed energy that you now are 0. And there is no human sitting there. It's not your neighbor. It's not the military workers. It's not your people around you. It's not your apartment neighbor shooting a ray gun at you. It's an automated computer system. So stop it with the bullshit thinking neighbors are after you and, ooh, they're watching me. Nobody's watching you. There's nobody following you. All of these people out there have the same shit on their head They're just not targeted for destruction like we are. But they are all available to be used to affect you. But it's not them. They don't have the computer. They're not wearing neural caps. So knock it off. Yeah. Well, why? Because they decided that you're a zero and you don't need to be alive anymore. So they're going to slowly infuse you with energy, give you cancer. They're going to make you commit suicide. They're going to do all that shit. So if somebody was a zero, do you think somebody would want to allocate another human, pay them, or even if it was for free? After you end up offing so many humans with this manually, if that's the way it was, wouldn't you get tired of it and go, I'm not going to watch this motherfucker for 15 years while he gets cancer? 20 years? No, it's automated. And your standing in the system is a zero. So they don't have enough people to sit there on a computer system with a neural cap on, or whatever weird shit people think, for people that don't matter and are a zero. So it's not your neighbors. It's not your neighbors. Nobody is on here for decades watching you. You're not that important. Don't you think after the first few thousand people that they put to sleep like this, whether it's a car accident, cancer, suicide, whatever, that they would automate the system for people that don't matter? It's not monetarily feasible to pay people just to off people. Just like, yeah, again, the computer helps me out through my speeches. Just said, tell them about the welding of the car bodies. Right. So what happened, Henry Ford in the beginning, when he had the assembly line and all that shit, people had to hand weld things. Sorry. He had to hand weld things. Well, now, fast forward, if they revived Henry Ford and said, hey, come check this out now. We have automated robotic arms that do the welds on the cars. So you program in, let's say, Ford F-150 or whatever. So it goes zzz, 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 next, zzz, 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 next, zzz, 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 and so on. You get the idea. Because they don't want to pay somebody to stand there with a welder and take forever and pay them a crazy amount of money to do the same shit over and over and over again. So it's the same thing for this. In the beginning, there may have been one or two people or gang stalkers out there following people before the system got up and running and they tuned it in, fine-tuned it and shit. But now they have it automated. They've got it fine-tuned. They know how much energy individual pieces of your body need to promote cancer in that anatomy. They know how to do this already. This is not something that's brand new. So they, in theory, developed a robotic arm to weld the goddamn cars in the assembly line. So that's what they have on you, is a robotic arm welding you. So stop listening to the goddamn computer. Stop thinking it's your neighbor. Stop thinking it's somebody doing this to you. And there's people with headlights out that are following you. And, oh, it's the neighbor downstairs because your foot's burning. No, it's not. Your foot's burning, and then you think it's somebody below you if you have an apartment below you. It's not the other way around. Somebody in the apartment below you is making your foot burn. It's your foot is burning because the computer has particulate matter in your foot, and they want you to think that the energy is coming from down up into your foot. It's just about psychology. I'll get into that in another video. There's a lady in California who seems to think every time, if you go on Instagram, she's on Instagram. She's an older lady, so you got to give her a little bit of leeway. But she seems to think that every time she gets hit on her left side, it's the apartment to her left that's shooting directed energy weapons at her. Every time her foot starts to burn, she thinks it's the apartment below her where her foot is burning, that they're shooting directed energy up through the floor from their apartment up into her foot. She doesn't know that it's nanoparticulate matter like I had there. Nanoparticulate matter that's assimilated into your body, making individual parts of your body targetable. And they programmed an AI computer system with a 3D rendering of all the human anatomy to be able to target individual areas as it sees fit. So for me, my targeted areas are my lymph nodes. I'll end with this. My targeted areas for me, which are going to probably end up with cancer or an inconvenience, are my eyes. I'll put it in red here. Are the eyes, the brain, testicles. Let's see. My butt, my rectal. I think that's TAL, rectal. And, the just gastrointestinal inside here. I'll get blasts going off in my intestines. I got my testicles blasted. Let's see. My joints. Yeah. It's a shame. It really is. Oh, in my mouth and throat. Mouth, throat, and lymph nodes. And lymph nodes. So a couple of years back, I'll talk about the lymph nodes real quick, because I'll get into these in a subsequent video too. My lymph nodes got hit so bad with the energy, and what happens is your tissue expands. Oh, and my lungs. Holy shit, this is a lot. And my lungs. So what happens is when you get hit in an area, I'll speak about the lymph nodes real quick. When you get hit in that area, the tissue expands because there's the energy coming in, which will inflate the tissue. It'll inflate that lymph node because you have matter going into a retained area, so it's expanding already. And then you have irritation of the tissue and inflammation. So you have inflammation and irritation, which if I slapped you in the face a couple of times, pop, pop, like that, do you think you'd swell up? You'd be red, irritated, sore? Right. So just think about this energy as slapping that anatomy consistently. Pop, 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 pop. It gets sore to the touch. And then what happens is when you pull out your detector, or if it turns it off, you'll feel the relief of the pressure. You'll feel the tissue shrink a little bit. It'll still be slightly swollen though for a while. It'll be sore because it's just like anything else. When it damages an area gets hit, it's going to be sore, bruised, swollen. Sometimes there's fluid there from, the energy hitting that area. And then what happens is that area was 100% fine, right? So then after the energy goes into that anatomy, in this case, the lymph nodes will never be 100% benign or fine again. They will recover after a while, like the human body does, but it will recover to, let's say, 98%. So then when it does it again, it'll go from 98% instead of 100%, it'll go to 94%, depending upon how much energy was infused. And then you'll see, I'll show you, you just keep going. When it hits that lymph node again, or the lymph nodes in general again, since it's carcinogenic, since it's cancer causing or problem causing in general, you're going to see it's going to go to 90%. And then eventually there's a tipping point where you go from healthy, non-cancerous, non-fibrosis. Fibrosis is microscopic scarring of the anatomy, hardening of the anatomy. It goes from 100 to 98 to 94 to 90%. It will never fully heal and regenerate back again. It's always going to be sore. It's always going to be fibrotic. Then eventually we'll say, let's use a different color, the cancer number, just for shits and giggles. We'll say the tipping point where the tissue then becomes cancerous and needs to be removed is, let's say, I don't know, 47%. Who knows? So you fast forward here, there's a couple more times here, and here where you get hit with the energy, and you get to the 48%. Then you now have the formation of the first couple of cells of cancer cells that will then run away and start to form a tumor, because they'll sit there. You won't feel a lot of pain because the computer can block the pain, and then it'll extend the time period that you won't go get medical attention. So that way there's a higher percentage of chance that by the time you get your first medical attention on that area, that it's already cancer and it's probably already spread. So you hit this 48% in the lymph nodes, and then you finally go and they're like, oh, whoa, we're sorry, we got some bad news. It appears that you have cancer in that area. And then if you have really bad news, the cancer has spread. So it's stage 2 plus. So you'll go, typically stage 2 plus is not out of the question, especially when they're hitting over the years all of these places. Well, then you get the diagnosis that you have cancer in, let's say, the lymph nodes. Then all of a sudden, holy shit, you treat the lymph nodes and you're feeling okay. They fucked you up with the treatment, burnt your anatomy with the treatment, as cancer treatment does. It fucking harms the rest of your body. Well, then you go back for a follow-up in a year, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, holy shit, it's in your butt. Or it's in your lungs now, because you had already previously been hit, but they didn't see it there previously. And then you go back, like my friend Marv back here, that's what happened to him. My friend Marv behind me back here, he got cancer. Well, he had cancer previously about 30 to 40 years ago, and the cancer treatment had harmed his testicles, so he couldn't have kids. But he survived and he was doing well. And, another point to this is, again, it made my life the best part of my life, because I never talked to that guy back there. I knew him my entire life, and I became friends with him. I would have long conversations with him. We became friendly. And, that would have never happened had this computer not targeted all of us, and had this computer not done what it did to me. I would have never talked to him. He would have never let me borrow tools. We would have never became friendly. I never said 2 words to that guy my entire life. So that's the sad part to this, is that in the protocols that they have made up and enacted worldwide, I'm at least one person that had a positive experience besides this shit. I had a positive experience where it gave me some of the best years of my life. I climbed mountains. I would have never climbed a mountain. I collect coins. I would have never collected coins. I work 7 days a week. I would have never worked 7 days a week. That's it. So that's the general questions. Get the books, get a EMF detector. I just had the top of my left foot hit. But it's one of those concentrated blasts, the electro-microwave pulse. You're not going to catch that on a detector. It's just meant to hit your tissue really quick, infuse a quick concentrated blast of energy, and it diffuses. So it hits, there's an epicenter of the hit, and then it diffuses into the adjacent soft tissue or the bone, however high they set that energy pulse to. So let's say it's 100 microteslas, but it's meant to be a quick blast. And typically it's not even 100 microteslas. It's usually, I would estimate, somewhere in the 30 to 40 microteslas. So it's a quick blast. You feel it, boom, and then a quick diffusion, and it spreads out as far as the energy will travel until it's all absorbed into the soft tissue or the bone, depending upon where it is sent. So it's quick, boom, boom. So if you ever see a shock wave, which is a good analogy that the computer just said, if you ever see a shock wave from a detonation, how you see that epicenter and then it spreads out the energy, well, the total amount of energy, depending upon what type of thing it's traveling through, there's a known distance that it should travel. There's a calculation for that. So bone, it's going to travel less because it's a harder cell. It's going to be harder to transmit the energy through it. Soft tissue, it'll travel easier because it's not as dense. So that was in the top of my left foot. Just had a shot right here in the back of my shoulder here, you know, and you could have it as small as one pore. There's one of the attacks that they do that, to say his name, Kevin Christian. If you look up targeted individual on YouTube, you'll see there's a dude named Kevin Christian down in Georgia. He hasn't made a video in almost a year. I don't know what happened to him, but you know, there's one attack that they do that they've programmed into the system that it feels like individual pops of fluid out of your pores all over your body, just in a random sequence. You'll feel it pop, 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 pop. It could be internal and external. It's just targeting these nanoparticulate pieces that's inside of your body and on outside of your body. So that's it. I'm assuming it's nanoparticulate pieces. That's what James Giordano said at West Point Military Academy. So that's it. Hope you guys have a good night. And again, please, thank you anybody that's watched the entire video. Yeah, I mean, hopefully I'm with you guys for a long time here. I want you guys to watch my outdoor videos. I'll start talking about that a little bit. I don't want this to be so sad. It is sad. It's fucked up. You know, my grandfather, my dad, everybody in this house was targeted. My grandfather got blinded in his left eye, and he was 99 years old, dude. So it's every single person. He was born in 1919 in Italy, immigrated here, fought in World War II, and the system decided to blind him in his left eye. So it has nothing to do with, well, if you're in the military, you're fine, you know. Oh, if you're old, you're fine. If you don't drive a car and you're housebound on hospice, you're fine. They're not going to do that to you. No, they'll still do that to you. I found that out when my grandfather was blind in his left eye because directed energy was hitting his eye for like 2 weeks straight. And he was rubbing his eye, rubbing his eye, rubbing his eye until he couldn't eat food anymore by himself with his right and left hand. But that's another story for another time. That's it. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope you guys get a good night's sleep. I hope you guys wake up tomorrow, like I tell my outdoor club, like I tell my coin club, like I tell people when I'm making my gym videos. On the surface, I look like I'm ready to go. I'm good to go. But I'm not, man. Like, I'm really not. This is not good. This is not good. There's a reason that this energy is hitting you, and it's nothing good. You know, you got to have some common sense. Common sense. Don't just think that you're going out to work and doing your thing and you're not being harmed by this energy. Don't think because you can get up and you got some sleep and you have a job and you have some money and you have a car and you can pay your bills somewhat. Don't think that this energy, if you're still feeling the energy, you're still having a little bit of burnt eyes, you can feel a burning sensation here. Don't think that that's not doing anything bad to you. I want you to believe that this shit is doing something fucked up to you, because it is. Why else would they be sending the energy into you if it wasn't meant to harm you? That's one of the things that I never understood with that Kevin Christian guy. His videos were nice to watch and stuff like that. You know, I enjoyed his stories as much as I'm telling mine. But what I couldn't understand with him was he kept saying, I feel like this is attempted murder. I feel like this is attempted murder. I feel like this is attempted murder. And he kept trying to say that it was these certain people in this certain town, and they had a crew of people that would wear neural caps and they would go into a catatonic state. And like, that's not it. It's an automated computer system. But besides that, it is not attempted murder. The attempt to murder people with this thing happened in the early days when they were first formulating this system and getting it online. They were attempting to figure out how to do this to people by using things that could be positive. Now, decades and decades later, they've gotten more sophisticated with it, and there is no attempt. They have successfully figured out how to end people's lives with this system. Whether it's a car accident, heart attack, stroke, they could have people diabetes themselves to death. Again, if you drink and drink and drink alcohol and you're a diabetic and you get your leg amputated, you get an arm amputated, you're not taking care of it, well, they could just encourage you to drink if you're a diabetic, or eat a bunch of sugary snacks and not worry about your sugar, your insulin level. And that could harm your body, So shit as easy as that. But that's it. I'm gonna let you guys go. Thank you. It's another hour-long video. It was a lot of stuff to cover, but yeah, I'm scared. I am. I'm scared. You may not think that I'm not scared. I'm scared to death, yo, because this is literally dying. Every one of these things in red, I have been hit. The lymph nodes and back here in my connective tissue on both sides of my neck, my thyroid probably, and the interior of my mouth have all been hit, and they're all sore. So that's it. I hope everybody has a good night. I hope you guys have a good day tomorrow. I really do. I mean it. I really do. And I have to check down here too, because my balls got hit so many times. I got woken up one morning, and since it's a torture mechanism, the computer will wake you up and tell you what it's about to do to you before it does it to you. So that way you have fear before. So as a torture person, that's what you would do. I'm gonna cut you here. You tell them on the way to cutting them there, and then you follow through and you cut them. So it woke me up and it said, "Hey, Nick, what are you gonna do about your left testicle?" The chatterbox. And then it zapped the shit out of my left testicle, put my left testicle in pain. So I'm gonna go to bed now. Thank you guys for watching. I'm on the other side now. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to How to Tame a Demon and Bob Duncan's other book. You can get it on Amazon. That book's about $30 right now, and this one is, I don't know, like $16, I think. So I just got tired of being put to death anyway with this system and harmed with this system and not saying anything about it, at least letting other people hear my story. And let me hear your story in the comments. I want to hear what you guys are going through. If you have any questions, feel free. Like I said, I didn't work for the government. I'm nobody special. I'm just a person, a young man. I'm still young. I'm 42 years old. I'm just a young man that was given an opportunity with this system, even though it's just following a protocol, which is a predetermined step process to your demise. I was given an opportunity in the interim years before I probably, unfortunately, pass on through some form of cancer or heart attack or stroke or whatever related to this system. I was given an opportunity to do a lot of positive things, a lot of good, and bring a lot of people a lot of happiness and inspire people with my positivity and my actions. And I've taken full advantage of that. And I'm immensely appreciative of that. But they didn't program a stop button into this thing, I don't think, unless you were in Havana, Cuba. They're the only ones that had this thing stop. And I'll talk about that then in a subsequent video. But for now, again, guys, have a good night. Do the best you can. Be happy, be positive, be proud, and be inspirational. And give that to somebody else, please. There's enough sadness and death and horrible things going on in this world, let alone through this system. So if there's one thing I would ask of you is to be positive and be inspirational and give that to somebody else tomorrow during your day. And that's it. Hope you guys have a good night and a good day tomorrow. See you.